Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of WILDchild TV. This is the Becoming a Ranger series, and my name is Josh. I'm a guide at andBeyond Kirkman's Camp and andBeyond Tingile River Lodge in the Sabi Sand Private Game Reserve in South Africa. Today we're going to be chatting about another iconic tree species in the area where I guide, and really throughout most of the northeastern part of South Africa, and that is the Sycamore Fig tree. So this is one of the most easily recognizable trees, especially along riverbeds in South Africa. They like areas where there's plenty of groundwater, and they've got huge root systems which grow and go in search of groundwater. So you only really find them along stretches of river. And they are probably one of the most iconic tree species out here, because they get really big. They get to about up to 20 meters tall in some cases. This is the biggest fig tree that we have here at andBeyond Kirkman's Camp in Tingile River Lodge, and it is probably one of the trees that almost every single guest who comes to join us on safari gets to see. Not only is it easily recognizable from its size and height, but it's got very distinct leaves and almost papery bark. Sometimes if you touch it, some bark powder will actually come off on your hand. And of course it's easily recognizable by the figs, the fruit which it produces for in some cases most of the year. This tree at the moment does not have any fruit on it, but there are a wide variety of animals which feed on these fruits, from some of the biggest like elephants to some of the more secretive nocturnal animals like the African civet. And many of our guides here at andBeyond Kirkman's Camp in Tingile River Lodge have had fantastic sightings of animals underneath this tree, from leopards to lions, elephants, the African civet which I spoke about earlier. And so this specific tree is really interwoven into the fabric of our lives here at andBeyond Kirkman's Camp. Probably one of the most interesting things about the sycamore fig tree is the way that it pollinates itself. So last time we spoke about trees, we spoke about the marula tree and how elephants and other animals disperse the fruit, and that was very interesting. When we talk about the sycamore fig tree, it also has similar dispersal methods. So animals like baboons, elephants, lots of different antelope species will eat the fruit and disperse them, and so trees can grow all along the riverbed. The most interesting thing about the sycamore fig tree is how it pollinates itself. So inside each fig on this tree, there are male and female flowers, and the pollen from the male flowers has to pollinate the female flowers. And how does the tree do this? Because the flowers are literally inside the fig. When you cut open a fig to have with breakfast, those little flowers are actually inside the fig, and they are pollinated by something called a fig wasp. And there are only a few species which can actually pollinate the fig trees, and so the life of the fig tree and the life of the wasp are very closely linked. So you get the male fig wasps, which actually spend their entire life inside the fig, and you get the female fig wasps who break out of one fig and go and lay their eggs in another. And so if you can imagine these tiny little wasp eggs hatching inside the fig, and then the male fig wasps fertilize the female fig wasps, and then the last thing that the males do is cut a little hole just to the outside of the fig, and then they die. That's their entire life. And the female fig wasps take some of the pollen with them as they hatch, and then they break through the fig, through the hole that the male has just made, and they go off to another fig and get inside a tiny little hole, lay their eggs inside, and also pass the pollen on. And so that is the very short life cycle of the fig wasp. Now there's some other wasps as well which can cause problem for the fig tree. So They're these wasps which we call parasitic wasps, and what they do is they use a very long tail to deposit their eggs inside the fig, but without actually ever going inside. And so they can lay their eggs there, but without providing the pollination which the fig so desperately needs. So besides the pollination and all the mammals that eat the figs, there are lots of different bird species which eat them too. Some of the ones that we are most interested in here at Kirkman's Camp and Tingile River Lodge are the African green pigeon and the purple-crested turaco. They are two of our starbirds, birds which we see a lot along the stretch of river, and you can often find them eating the figs of the sycamore fig tree. There are also lots of different medicinal uses for the bark, in particular, of the tree. One can make a decoction, which is almost like a potion of sorts, I guess, and you can use that to treat upset stomachs and as well as dysentery, so that's quite useful. But mainly the figs are eaten as a treat by animals as well as people. But it's always a good idea to make sure that the fig doesn't have any fig wasps inside it before you eat it. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this short episode on the sycamore fig tree. We look forward to teaching you more about trees at andBeyond Kirkman's Camp and andBeyond TV.